very much, Emily. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So the Earth is perceived as the medium, the life support system. It needs to be perceived in a global context, as I said before, through the interaction between the Earth, the superficial layers of the Earth's crust, but also it is a place where human beings and animals live. So trans-Earth is perceived in its transformation aspect with the dimension of augmentation. There could be some devices in order to increase the yield of the Earth through some artificial means. This could be now means dedicated to repair the negative impacts affecting the Earth because of the negative and harmful effects of human beings through the past generations. So I would like to talk about the global environment of the Earth. I would like to talk about also the climate dimension, and geoengineering aims at taking back control of climate events that impact the existence, but also the quality of life of animal species and the human species. It is also aimed at some actions like CO2 removal, and there are actions like ocean fertilization that impact the earth and the water, but we need to understand the impact of these different interventions, the positive or potentially harmful impacts of these interventions, because all of these artificial interventions, of course, have risks, entail risks. So this is the goal of this conference. We will have 4 speakers who will take the floor, each for 20 minutes, to present their point of view. The first speaker is Clive Hamilton, who will talk about historical and ethical reflections on trans-Earth. Clive Hamilton is an Australian author and a public writer. He is also professor at the University of Canberra. He has published several articles. He has also been invited in Sciences Po, the University of Heidelberg, Oxford. And before being appointed in the University of Charles Dock, he was for 14 years the executive director of a reflection think tank, the Australian Institute. Clive wrote many books on climate change and geoengineering. He also wrote a trilogy, a Requiem trilogy, that you can read the apprentice sorcerers of the climate and the destiny of human beings in the Anthropocene. His opinions in various aspects of geoengineering and climate change were published both in the Nature Review, in the prestigious New York Times scientific journal. I was actually just displaying his book, The Apprentice Sorcerers of the Climate, and in Le Monde. So the second intervention will be dedicated to the transformed Earth and a view over the different techniques that are used. Lily Fur will talk about this. She is a director of Ciel. She leads a team of lawyers in order to respond to the political, social, and economic responses to the triple crisis of climate, biodiversity, and pollution, exposing the risks and impacts of false solutions, with, of course, a particular focus on petrochemical products, agrochemical products, and the geoengineering techniques such as carbon capture and storage. She has led for 15 years the division of the international policy for the Heinrich Böll Foundation. She's a member of the board of directors for the ETC group, and she's sitting at the board of the Non-Proliferation Board for Fossil Fuel. So the third intervention will mention the governance of the climate and a race to the atmosphere. It will be presented by Marine de Guglielmo-Weber, and she will mention the international governance in the face of the race to the atmosphere. A reflection will be conducted on how geoengineering techniques could affect geopolitical relationships, and she will also look at the different competition dynamics and the risk of militarization and weaponization. So Marine is professor at IRIS for climate. She is looking at different topics in relation to climate change, and she specialized in the study of technological solutions developed to respond to this, and namely the techniques in order to alter the weather and the climate. She has a PhD in communication sciences. She has also studied cloud seeding. She, from the University of Paris 8, she also wrote a book on climate interventions, published in 2023. So I'm very, very happy that a PhD graduate appears here, and it's good to have young people speaking out on such important questions. And the last intervention will be presented by James Marvin Herndon, who will mention the systemic approach and the biosystemic consequences of geoengineering. James is a physician. He has a PhD in nuclear physics and an advanced training in geochemistry. In 1979, he published an original idea, different idea on the composition of the Earth, and contradicting a very old consensus, which is why he was left aside from the scientific point of view. But he decided to continue his scientific research. He found a new basis for the origin of Earth, the dynamics of the Earth, a replacement of plate tectonics, and as well he discovered a new basis for nuclear georeactor at the Earth's center as the energy source and production mechanism for the geomagnetic field. And he also presented a new concept on the ignition of stars and the reason why the many galaxies have just a few prominent distributions of luminescent stars, a mechanism by which the changes in solar wind triggers earthquakes and volcanoes, the Martian planetary dynamics, and much more. These are all elements developed by James. Since 2015, he and a physician colleague have published 25 scientific and medical articles and 2 books on the adverse consequences of chemtrails. So Clive Hamilton, you have the floor.